White Lotus explained.
Here's a detail about Mike White that changes how you see everything he makes. Before he created The White Lotus, he was a contestant on Survivor and The Amazing Race. Not just a fan who got cast. He went deep into Survivor, got blindsided, the whole experience. He even did The Amazing Race with his dad. So the guy who built this series about wealthy strangers trapped together in a luxury resort had literal first-hand experience navigating alliances and watching people perform versions of themselves under pressure.
That's baked into the DNA of this show. And the other thing about White, he writes every single episode himself. No writer's room. He directs most of them too. In an era where that approach has basically disappeared from prestige TV, it gives the whole thing a very specific voice.
His range as a writer is genuinely surprising. He wrote School of Rock, he wrote Nacho Libre. He created Enlightened with Laura Dern on HBO, which was critically adored but barely anyone watched. And then Brad's Status with Ben Stiller. Totally different registers every time.
And speaking of range, Jennifer Coolidge as Tanya, the only character who carries over from season 1. White wrote that role specifically for her. They've been close friends for years, and he's been open about wanting to build something around what he knew she could do.
Which is remarkable when you think about where her career had been. For 20-plus years, she was Stifler's mom from American Pie, Paulette from Legally Blonde. Iconic, hilarious, but the industry slotted her as a comedy bit player. The Christopher Guest movies like Best in Show and A Mighty Wind showed her improvisational depth, but Hollywood kept giving her the same kind of parts. White basically said she was going through a rough stretch, and he wanted to give her something real. That friendship driving the creation of a role, you almost never hear that story.
And then John Grease playing her husband Greg is its own interesting pairing. Grease has been a working character actor for decades. Most people know him as Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, one of the most quoted comedy performances of the 2000s. He was also on Lost as Roger Linus. Two career character actors, both known for comedy, cast as a married couple on prestige HBO.
There's something quietly perfect about that. And then the DeGrasso family, which might be the most interesting casting puzzle of the whole season. Michael Imperioli as Dominic, F. Murray Abraham as his father Bert, and Adam DeMarco as the grandson Albie. Imperioli is forever Christopher Moltisanti from The Sopranos. But people forget he was also Spider in Goodfellas, the kid who gets shot by Joe Pesci. And he was only 24 when he filmed that.
He didn't just act on The Sopranos either. He wrote episodes, studied at the Stella Adler studio, worked with Spike Lee on Summer of Sam. He's a practicing Buddhist, co-hosts a Sopranos rewatch podcast. An actor completely steeped in Italian-American storytelling. And then White cast him as a Sicilian-American patriarch on a luxury resort show. That's not random.
And opposite him as his father, F. Murray Abraham, who's been working for over 5 decades. Salieri in Amadeus. He was in Scarface the year before that, The Name of the Rose with Sean Connery. More recently, he turned up in Inside Llewyn Davis for the Coens, The Grand Budapest Hotel for Wes Anderson, Mythic Quest on Apple TV. And his actual heritage fits perfectly. The F stands for Farid. His father was Syrian-American. His mother was Italian-American. So the Italian roots are genuine. He brings decades of serious stage work too. Shakespeare, Chekhov, the classical repertoire. He was in his early 80s during filming.
Then Adam DeMarco as the youngest DeGrasso. Canadian, from Edmonton, had done The Magicians and The Order. Solid genre work, but nothing close to this level. And he's actually Italian-Canadian, so the heritage runs through all 3 actors playing the family. That generational casting is just smart.
Aubrey Plaza as Harper is another actor deliberately steering away from what made her famous. Everyone knew her from Parks and Rec, but she'd been pushing into darker territory for years. Ingrid Goes West, Black Bear, Legion for Noah Hawley, Emily the Criminal. She started as an NBC page at Saturday Night Live and came up through the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York. And her real background informed the casting. She's Puerto Rican and Irish, and White wrote Harper as half Puerto Rican. That match wasn't accidental.
What's striking about this season is how many of the cast are British actors playing Americans. Theo James as Cameron, Will Sharpe as Ethan, Leo Woodall as Jack, all Brits in Sicily. And then Tom Hollander as Quentin, who at least gets to keep his own accent.
Theo James came out of Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, one of the best drama programs in the UK. Most people know him from the Divergent franchise, and he'd just finished The Time Traveler's Wife on HBO. But before any of that, he had a tiny, memorable appearance on Downton Abbey as a Turkish diplomat, basically his first moment on screen.
Will Sharpe is the real wild card, though. British-Japanese, grew up between London and Tokyo, went to Cambridge. Before White Lotus, he was primarily a filmmaker. He created and starred in Flowers on Channel 4, directed The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne with Benedict Cumberbatch. This show moved him from behind the camera to in front of it for a much bigger audience.
He and Tom Hollander actually share a background. Both came through the National Youth Theatre in London. Hollander went on to the Royal Shakespeare Company, played Lord Cutler Beckett in the Pirates of the Caribbean films, created and starred in Rev for the BBC, was in The Night Manager alongside Hugh Laurie and Tom Hiddleston. He's one of those actors who shows up in everything and is always the most interesting person in the room. He also has an identical twin brother, which is a great piece of trivia.
Megan Fahey as Daphne is someone whose background surprised me. Most people knew her from The Bold Type on Freeform, but she started on Broadway. She was in the cast of Next to Normal. Serious theater roots, same tradition as Abraham and Hollander, just a different generation of it.
Then there's the Italian contingent, which is where White's casting gets really intentional. He brought in 3 Italian actresses for the Sicilian roles: Sabrina Impacciatore as the resort manager Valentina, Simona Tabasco as Lucia, Beatrice Grano as Mia. All 3 came out of elite Italian drama programs. Impacciatore is a massive star in Italy. She was in Che Bella Giornata, one of the highest-grossing Italian films ever. But American audiences had zero idea who she was. She trained at the Silvio D'Amico Academy in Rome, which is basically the Italian Juilliard.
Tabasco came from the Centro Sperimentale di Cinematografia, another top program. She'd done Luna Nera for Netflix Italy, but nothing in English. And Grano is actually a trained singer, so the musical performances in her role were completely real. She and Tabasco reportedly became genuinely close friends during filming, which tracks.
For both Tabasco and Grano, this was their English language debut. White Lotus introduced them to an international audience basically overnight. Same trajectory for Leo Woodall as Jack. He came out of arts educational schools in London, did a brief stint on Hollyoaks, and after this show went straight to leading One Day on Netflix. That kind of launchpad almost never comes along.
Haley Lou Richardson as Portia came from a totally different world. She broke out in Columbus, Kogonada's indie film, did The Edge of 17, Split for Shyamalan. She was actually a trained dancer who pivoted to acting. Very indie film pedigree compared to the blockbuster backgrounds around her.
That's honestly what makes this ensemble click. You've got Abraham from 50 years of prestige cinema, Imperioli from the golden age of HBO drama, Coolidge and Grease from 90s comedy, Plaza from network television, Hollander from British theater, and then these Italian and British newcomers who American audiences were meeting for the first time. A reality TV veteran writing alone in a room, casting a Hollyoaks actor opposite the lead of Amadeus.
And the fact that every one of them feels like they've always belonged in the same show, that's the real craft of it.